Welcome to the 12th Report with Blessings Musugu, and these are the headlines. Nigerians are asking why the rush as federal government promises one-week delivery amid new fees shaking the system. Also, countdown to a high-stakes election as security forces and electoral body battles to prove readiness. United Nations issues grave warning as thousands of refugees flee Kenya camp in a desperate struggle for survival. As usual, we have our reporters stationed in different parts of the country. Igbalani Omoni, Austin Azu, and Biola Festus are joining us from River State. Sagir Ibrahim, Bettina Nweli, as well as Aisha Saliu are joining us right from Abuja. We've got the details in a moment. We begin with the federal government saying Nigerians can now expect their passports within 1 week of enrollment, following sweeping reforms to the country's processing system. Minister of Interior Minister Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo made the announcement at a performance retreat in Abuja, stressing that long-standing backlogs and corrupt practices have been eliminated. A new centralized personalization center, described as the largest in Africa, will speed up production and enhance document security. Officials also revealed that passport control officers will no longer approve applications in a move aimed at ending widespread extortion. Let's still stay with electoral matters for a bit. It's just a few hours to the River State local government election, and last-minute preparations are in top gear. The state electoral umpire is still engaged in last-minute preparations, where a large number of RESEC ad hoc staff were reportedly locked outside the premises, awaiting confirmation of their posting letters. And while the state electoral body and political parties express confidence in their readiness, security agencies are taking no chances as a joint task force comprising personnel from the military, police, CTU, NDLEA, and fire service has embarked on a show of force in Port Harcourt. We'll go live now to our correspondent in the field who witnessed the operation. Austin Azu is joining us now from the state. Austin, can you tell us what the mood is like in Port Harcourt as we gear up to the elections? We hear there was a show of force. What exactly led to that?
All right, currently the city of Port Harcourt, and earlier on we went to RESEC office and we saw large numbers of ad hoc staff besieged the premises, and they confirmed to us that they are about gaining access to the premises, but they were locked out for them to confirm their locations and their posting exercise. And like rightly stated, they were sure of force by the security agencies ahead of the elections tomorrow. We have some crossover respondents here to speak to us. Okay, Adam. Okay, Adam, how are you?
Fine.
Okay, how prepared are you for tomorrow's election?
We don't prepare for the election. Election go Syria and where we go away.
Okay, how is the political atmosphere?
Nothing to say. No, we pray say me any kasala no boss. So just go there and vote for anybody like and go back.
Okay, I have good luck, Ede. Please come this way. All right. Please stay here, sir. Don't go away. All right, good luck. How prepared are you for tomorrow's election? The camera.
Okay, well, I'm well prepared for it. It's an electoral process that is something that needs to be done, and it's a necessity. So elections are basically to ensure that whoever that is in the position of authority should ensure that the needs and aspirations of the people are really kept and intact. So I'm ready to exercise my franchise for the betterment of the River State.
Okay, in your own assessments, how are you assessing the political atmosphere? Do you see any kinds of activities that you are not comfortable with?
Right now, where I am at Rumola Axis, the atmosphere is really fair. So far, the campaign that held some days back, it was very conducive and peaceful.
Okay. Thank you very much. Back to you, Blessing, in the studio. We keep updating you what is happening regarding the elections tomorrow. Back to you in the studio.
And as we for the updates, let's move now to Niyi Omoni, who is also in River State. Niyi, what part of River State are you in? And we understand that there was a show of force. What impact does that have on the people? Has it, caused any fear in the people leading up to the elections?
Well, I'm right in front of the Rivers. I'm right in front of the Rivers State Police Command and the state. And earlier we went along with the show of force, which was a joint task force. If to be precise, we had the military, the police, the NSCDC, Nigeria Customs Service, Nigeria Correctional Service, the NDLEA. Various sister agencies from security forces, even the fire service was there. And the message is clear. They want to make sure that they alert the public that there is going to be security for, after and during the election, and also to let the people know, let the miscreant know, or people who plan to foment any sort of trouble, that they are on ground to deter or stop or mitigate, any word you want to use, any sort of violence whatsoever. It's also important to note that during the course of the show of force, because we went on with them, we could see on people's faces. In fact, I spoke with someone who was quite worried why we have so much security personnel deployed for the local government elections. And it's important to also state that the last local government elections we held in October last year, which the police withdrew their security operatives due to a court injunction. This time around, the police is here, the security agencies are here, and a lot of people are looking out for. They want to come out to exercise their franchise, but a lot of people are looking out for what exactly will be the impact of the police. Will it instill more peace, or will it just make things go bad in a particular way? That's the update I have for you from the police command here.
Okay, Nii, before we let you go, we understand that preparations are underway, and this year it's looking really tight for Rivers State. The security operatives as well as the INEC are under intense pressure to deliver credibility. What other early signs of preparations have you observed on ground?
Obviously, you know, Rivers State security architecture, in a way, we don't have police station across so many places. I think there's they expect people to act orderly, they expect people to act, I would say professionally, because they're not professional, but they expect people to keep the peace. But of course, because it's the time for elections, we started seeing some little checkpoints, some roadblocks across some areas. Police are now more intensifying their security operations. In fact, at some major places, streets, you wouldn't find the presence of security. We are now even finding military personnel, not just the police now, military personnel across those places, mounting guard and being stationed at those places. And it's beginning to raise concerns, as I said earlier, from citizens noting that it's just a local government elections. Why? It's just a local government election. Why is there so much security? But on the part of the security operatives, they are fully ready, kitted, and of course ready to deter any sort of violence whatsoever. The last election, as I said, there were no much violence. I wouldn't say there were no violence at all. There were not much violence. But this time around, they are hoping to push it to zero. They have zero tolerance for any sort of disturbance whatsoever, and they seem ready to take it on.
All right, Nii, please stay with us. We want to also talk to Biola Festus, who's also in yet another region in Rivers State, as we prepare for the elections. Biola Festus, what is the mood like? First off, where are you in Rivers State? And the mood of the people, would you say it's agitation? Would you say it's fear? Would you say it's indifference? What's the upcoming elections? To you, most definitely, while we try to rectify the audio challenges. Nii, if you're still there, I want to find out if there are any reports of intimidation or obstacles that voters are facing. Aside the show of force earlier today, speaking of the voters themselves now, are there any challenges that might lead to voter apathy on that day?
Well, knowing the Rivers people, naturally, they are not someone who easily bend to show of force or violence. And of course, there's earlier when we were here, we heard the police major principal briefing the officers and telling them to walk alongside the people. No need for intimidation, no need for violence, no need for unnecessary actions except if it is warranted. And so the men have been briefed. They understand that. On the flip side, on the side of the people, that is the electorate themselves now, they are not intimidated. I wouldn't say intimidated is the word, because I've not seen any of them that have spoken that have said, oh, I won't vote because the police officers are there. I won't vote because the military are there. No, none of them have said that. They've only said they will not or will because of their own personal view, not as because of the presence of the police. So for now, we've not seen any sort of intimidation from the police. They've just gone. In fact, to tell you how much the military has been working with us, when we dropped off from the show of force earlier, we linked up with, we saw some of the military on their own show of force, another set of the military on their own show of force. And, you know, they stopped immediately trying to ask us, what are you doing, why are you recording, and so many things. And we told them that we are press members, and we also showed them some of the videos we had shot earlier when the police were doing their patrol. And immediately they just told us to carry on. And that's to tell you the sort of fluidity that we can find here in Rivers State. We just hope this continues till the election day, and of course there will be no sort of suppression, intimidation whatsoever of the press and of course of the electorate.
All right, Nii, thank you. It's good to see that so far there is a kind of collaboration between the media and the security forces, but please still do well to stay safe. Nii, Biola, and of course Austin, we appreciate your time. Definitely News Central will be bringing more updates from that region on politics. But we're still talking politics. The former Minister of Transportation and chieftain of the African Democratic Congress, Rotimi Amechi, has reaffirmed his determination to contest the 2027 presidential election under the ADC platform. Addressing journalists in Kano after a meeting with the coalition of traders, the former Rivers State governor declared that there will be no retreat, no surrender in his presidential ambition. Amechi stressed that every member of the ADC has the right to seek the party's ticket, describing such competition as vital to promoting and expanding the region. We're going on a short break now. It's still the 12 reports. When we come back, we've got more stories. Do stay with us. It's still live with us on the 12 report. The National Economic Council has expressed worry over the emergence of a vaccine-resistant polio virus found in the northwest region of the country. And this formed part of deliberations raised by the council during the meeting attended by state governors and key economic managers, deliberating on strategies aimed at stabilizing Nigeria's economy amidst rising inflation, dwindling revenue, and pressing security challenges. News Central's Bettina Nweli, who has been monitoring this, now joins us. Bettina, the NEC has approved a renewed hope agenda from 2026 to 2030, if I'm not mistaken. First off, what is the response to that agenda?
Well, thank you very much, Blessings. Now, the Renewed Hope National Development Plan 2026 to 2030 is designed to consolidate. Different things in the economy. Now, the progress of the 2021 to 2025 plan is something that has been like a response to new economic and social realities. Now, the key priorities include accelerating job creation, expanding infrastructure, improving food security, strengthening social protection, and also investing heavily in human capital development, especially education and healthcare. Now, what this means for ordinary Nigerians is that employment opportunity, better access to essential services, a safety net for vulnerable groups. Also, important, it aligns with Nigeria's long-term agenda 2050. So the policies that have been put in place now are supposed to directly shape a more inclusive and resilient economy in the years to come.
All right, Bettina, glad you simplified that for the ordinary Nigerians. Also, polio cases have declined nationwide, but Sokoto State remains the epicenter with over half of the 2025 cases. What are the specific strategies that are being deployed to ensure that there is full eradication in high-risk states like Sokoto State?
Okay, now when it comes to the polio strategy, it is multi-pronged. It has different areas where you can actually look at it from. Now, we also must note that polio was eradicated, or Nigeria was confirmed to have eradicated polio in 2020. But a new variant that has come up is something that they are trying hard to fight. Now, yesterday during the NEC meeting, we're told that things are being put in place to make sure that, you know, more vaccines are brought out and more areas are covered in terms of vaccination. Also, they're also rolling out personal supplies and malaria medications for pregnant women and children. So it's something that I think the government is really paying attention to, because if we had been declared polio-free before, then I believe it's something that we can achieve all over again.
Bettina Nweli, thank you so much for bringing us the update on that. Definitely will follow the story as it develops. Moving on to the agitation by Nigerian lecturers over unmet demands, where the federal government has denied ever signing any binding agreement with the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU. The Education Minister, Dr. Tunji Alausa, clarified this in Abuja that documents cited by ASU from 2009 and 2011 were proposals, not signed contracts. Dr. Alausa said the administration of President Bola Tinubu remains committed to resolving the university lecturers' but dismissed rumors of a scheduled meeting involving the Minister of Labour as inaccurate. Still talking ASU's unmet demands, the Academic Staff Union of Universities says Nigerians should hold the federal government accountable for any further disruptions to the academic calendar. At a press conference held at the University of Lagos, the ASU's Lagos Zonal Coordinator, Adeola Nasiru, said the union's warning comes after a series of unproductive meetings with government agencies and a peaceful protest that yielded no results.
The right of ASU to embark on strike when all efforts yield no meaningful result is recognized by the labor laws. Our members are being owed various entitlements. Now, when the Minister of Education expressed the wish of government that there will be no strike by unions in tertiary institutions, one would think this will immediately be matched with action. Unfortunately, all we have been doing is talking and holding series of meetings with government agencies without results. It's a clear case of movement without motion. What else would anyone do in this situation? Whatever happens next, Nigerians should hold government responsible, not ASU.
We're still on the matter. In the meantime, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, Lagos Zone, has called on the federal government to pay lecturers a living wage, insisting that the current minimum wage is inadequate given the country's economic realities. This demand comes after a peaceful protest at the University of Lagos, where lecturers pressed for outstanding salaries, promotion arrears dating back 4 years, unpaid wage awards, and palliatives. ASU Lagos Zonal Coordinator Adeola Nasiru also accused the government of undermining university autonomy by channeling funds directly to staff rather than through institutions. He further criticized the tertiary institution's staff support fund, saying it has been reduced to loans inaccessible to many members, warning that unresolved issues could trigger nationwide action. The maiden African Chiefs of Defense Staff Summit has ended in Abuja with a strong call for collaboration, technology adoption, and political will to address the continent's security challenges. Over 3 days, Africa's defense chiefs, policymakers, and security experts discussed strategies to combat terrorism, piracy, cyber warfare, and other threats to regional peace. News Central's Sagir Ibrahim reports.
The summit brought together military leaders from across Africa to reaffirm a collective resolve that unity, technology, and innovation remain central to securing the continent's future. In his closing speech, Nigeria's Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, underscored that Africa's destiny lies in the collaboration and homegrown solutions.
We have recognized that our strongest defense is strategic collaboration. This summit has been a declaration of Africa's determination to take ownership of its peace, stability, and future. Our greatest weapon is our unity. Let's continue to harness this unity to build a safer, more secure Africa.
On the sidelines, defense representatives from Liberia and Zambia told News Central that it is time for Africa to move beyond dialogue and take decisive action.
The collaboration is needed between African defense forces, and this initiative, I think, was the best so far. and I just hope that it will continue.
It's now time that the various CDSs must go back home and meet the political elite, have a conversation with them, and then they will send a communique back to our fellow countries. We'll come on another date that we'll have this summit. And we all agree that this summit should be done annually, and that's the most important thing.
Beyond military strategies, experts stressed that adopting artificial intelligence and digital innovation must be matched with political will.
I would like to see us more proactive and less on the reactive side from the utilization of artificial intelligence. I would like to see practical next steps in respect to addressing the issue of data accessibility.
Political will has to be behind anything we do for it to succeed. Trying to do anything by yourself based on borderlines will not allow solutions to have a proper impact that they can immediately and lastingly for the continent.
And so went 3 days of intensive conversation between Africa's defense chief with an intention to address Africa's long-standing security challenges. And like the chief of defense staff mentioned, it is now time for action. From the Bola Ahmed Tinubu International Conference Center in Abuja for News Central, Sagir Ibrahim.
Sagir Ibrahim on a very beautiful piece on securing Africa. Away from that, in a bid to tackle Nigeria's growing security challenges, peace builders from the United Nations and other government stakeholders have convened in Abuja to chart a roadmap for strengthening the nation's security institutions. The strategic dialogue focuses on enhancing human rights commitments, fostering mutual understanding between security agencies and civilians, and building partnerships and capacity through both kinetic and non-kinetic approaches. Participants also aim to outline pathways for bilateral and multilateral cooperation to bolster Nigeria's commitment to the Pact for the Future. From the UN House in Abuja, we have News Central's Aisha Saliu. Aisha, how are the participants planning, or this summit in general, planning to strengthen the ties between security agencies and civilians to promote peace in Nigeria? Now, while we wait to establish connection with Aisha Saliu to give us more updates on that, we also have Sagir Ibrahim, my colleague, who has been covering the Chiefs of Defense Summit for 3 days. Sagir Ibrahim, I just want to find out, looking at how we've gone day 1 to 3 for this, what would you say that has been a resolution?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Blessing. So the resolution has been to match words with action. The resolution has been to look for local solutions to addressing this local problem. Africa's defense chiefs understand at this moment that the only way that they can effectively address these issues, which has now transcended their borders, is to as well work collaboratively also across borders to address the issues head on. The issue of cybersecurity is not confined to one country alone. The issue of trans-border crime and terrorism is not confined to one country alone. It transcends from the likes of Nigeria to Chad and even Niger Republic, goes up to Mali, Burkina Faso, and the likes of that. Now, if we have Africa's intelligence and also Africa's military working together, that's the way that those actors who are responsible for the issues that are bedeviling Africa in terms of security, then there's going to be a more holistic solution to the problems affecting Africa. So this time, a communique has been adopted. This time, the defense chiefs have said, we're going to work together with one voice. It's now time to go back home, put words to action, talk to their political leaders, so political will will also be put in place to ensure that security strategies are matched with government policy and the issues would then be addressed. Another thing that was done was the agreement that this summit should be held yearly. Henceforth, since the maiden edition has held, they will be coming back next year when we do the strategies that are adopted in this session. After that is done, we then adopt new strategy, and it continues as a daily cycle until hopefully Africa's security challenges are effectively addressed.
Sagir Ibrahim, thank you for the update on that. Disinformation and misinformation are emerging as major threats to Africa's democratic process, with digital platforms increasingly used to influence public perception. To address this, the ECOWAS Network of Electoral Commissions, ECONEC, and the International Institute for Democracy and Electoral Assistance, International IDEA, convened a regional workshop in Abuja. The goal? to protect elections and reinforce public trust in the process. The workshop brought together election management bodies from across West Africa, including Nigeria, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Liberia, and the Gambia, to share strategies, strengthen cooperation, and safeguard the credibility of elections. Organizers stressed that today, elections are not decided solely at the ballot box, but also in the information space. Cyber attacks, disinformation, and digital manipulation are now among the most pressing threats to electoral integrity. All right, we have someone to discuss this with us, but in the meantime, my colleague Sagir is still on standby to give us update on this summit. Sagir, very quick question. Why do you think disinformation is still at the heart of one of the biggest threats to elections across in this part of the continent?
Well, I would snowball from the conversation about the African Chiefs of Defense Staff Summit. Now, in that summit, it was also identified that threats have also gone asymmetric and they are now digital. These digital threats include misinformation, disinformation, and the use of artificial intelligence, the adoption of artificial intelligence in the creation of videos, deepfake videos, synthetic audios, and all of that. The identification of that is the security aspect of it, but then it also has long-reaching and far-impacting consequences on the electioneering as well. In Africa, especially in the 2023 general election, we saw the impact, especially of the social media in 2023, in the 2023 general election, and how that, in one way or the other, affected voter turnout. Talk about a particular candidate who was able to garner over 6 million votes as a result of that. However, fake news, especially with regards to slanderous statements about particular candidates, also reign supreme. So this time, election management bodies are saying it is now time for us to come together and to develop a management strategy that helps them respond to the issues of fake news, misinformation, and all of the dangers that this can pose to an elector.
So, Sagir, thank you so much for that, by the way. Thanks for bringing us the updates. Also joining us on the news to discuss more on this is the Senior Advisor, International IDEA, Olufunto Akinduro. Thank you so much for joining us, Olufunto.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we know that some strategies were proposed by the International IDEA and ECONEC to help the election management bodies to curb misinformation and also protect voters. What are these strategies?
Well, I think it's important that we start by saying, there is no one-size-fits-all or a silver bullet, for addressing this. And it's not, something that electoral management bodies can do all by themselves. So in our discussions over the past 2 days, we paid a lot of attention to initiatives around promoting interagency cooperation, working, more with other agencies that also have a mandate on regulating the information environment. We also considered strategies around proactive disclosure of information by election management bodies, and because that is clearly one way of being one step ahead of disinformation. It's about putting information out proactively and also planning proactively in a longer term around how to address the information environment. Finally, we looked at questions around advocacy for legal reforms. But important to mention that legal reforms should also be considered in because we do not hope to go from an open information environment to suddenly a completely closed out environment. And then questions around different channels by which we could counter disinformation, in a way that it matches as well the efforts of the peddlers of disinformation. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Also, how would you say that the spread of false narratives and digital manipulation has affected election credibility across Africa so far?
Most recently, I think if you look at elections held in the past 8 to 10 years, the impact of disinformation, is quite clear. And it's important to, understand the relevance of the information environment, information integrity being central to achieving election integrity. These are not separate. Considering that elections are keenly contested, elections come through with a lot of tensions, passions, emotions, and elections are really pretty much about perceptions. So a well-informed electorate, understanding the processes, the procedures, and being able to take informed decisions for those processes are quite keen. So when you look at elections that have happened, across the continent, I think particularly Kenya and Nigeria have been, clearly identified as two countries that have been quite impacted by questions around disinformation and, just the impact of the online information environment. And we've seen, questions around attacks on officials of election management bodies, attacks on candidates, and I mean, especially attacks that affect women in the political arena quite specifically because of how they are profiled and perceived, in the online environment. We've also seen outbreak of violence being, reactions to wrong information as provided or as taken up or perceived by the electorate in some countries. We've also seen just wrong information about the process, people peddling results that are not official, people peddling information about the process, things like you saying people should vote on a certain day, which is not the real day. And then it begins to affect, voter turnout, acceptance of results overall, and, questions around the credibility of incoming regimes. Lastly, you also think about the reputation of election management bodies, after these kinds of wrong information, had been sent out broadly, and it's had to, roll it back, and the impact of it in the overall acceptance of election management bodies.
All right, Senior Advisor, International Idea, Olufunto Akinduro, thank you for joining us on the news. Humanitarian agencies in Algeria have been urged to prioritize persons with disabilities and special needs in their strategic planning and response efforts. Now, this was during the Nigeria Red Cross Validation Workshop, which held in Abuja, as members of the society deliberated on the Red Cross 2026 to 2027 Unified Humanitarian Plan. Our correspondent Joshua Marai reports from Abuja.
With plans underway for effective humanitarian response for citizens in the country, the Nigerian Red Cross Society says that it is taking significant steps towards coordinating humanitarian response for the years 2026 and 2027. At this validation workshop, which was held in Abuja, representatives from government agencies, humanitarian organizations, and emergency services converged to align on key priorities and strategies so as to channel them to effective humanitarian response.
We are doing the validation of the Unified Plan for 2026-2027. The objective is to come together to harmonize and have a robust and a roadmap of success on the humanitarian activities.
We have to be smart and try to do more and have a larger impact, while at the same time having to deal with decreasing funds. And to address that problem, exactly this meeting today was called for, so that we can plan together as a Red Cross movement to address these challenges.
Stakeholders say that the Unified Plan will serve as a roadmap enabling agencies to address the nation's humanitarian needs.
The Unified Plan is strategic for us because it gives us an idea of what the Nigerian Red Cross Society wants to do, how they want to intervene, where they want to channel resources.
The Senior Special Assistant to the President on Special Needs and Equal Opportunities, who was also present at the event, urged humanitarian aid agencies to place persons with disabilities at the core of their responses.
Persons with disability and these with special need are often disproportionately affected in times of crisis, disaster, health emergency, and social disruption. Therefore, it is imperative that their perspective remain integral to both the design and the implementation of this plan.
As humanitarian challenges evolve, the call is growing louder for inclusive strategies that leave no one behind. With the validation of this plan, the Nigerian Red Cross and its partners are hoping to set the stage for a more coordinated and inclusive humanitarian response over the next 2 years. In Abuja, for News Central, I am Joshua Imarayi.
To business, Asia-Pacific markets traded mixed Friday as investors digested regional economic data. Japan's Nikkei 225 fell 0.41% and Topix dropped 0.39% after Tokyo core CPI eased to 2.5% in August, while unemployment declined to 2.3%. South Korea's Kospi and Kosdaq slipped on corruption charges against ex-First Lady Kim Kyung-hee, with the won weakening 0.15%. Australia's S&P ASX 200 lost 0.14%, while Hong Kong's Hang Seng gained 0.51% and China's CSI 300 rose 0.13%. U.S. markets closed higher overnight, with the S&P 500 up 0.32%, Nasdaq plus 0.53%, and Dow Jones plus 0.16%, both hitting record levels. Still staying in business, the U.S. has ended its long-standing tariff exemption for package imports under $800, a move that raises costs for e-commerce firms, small businesses, and consumers. From Friday, U.S. Customs and Border Protection began applying standard duty rates on all parcels, with temporary flat fees of $80 to $200 depending on origin. The change, part of Trump's broader tariff strategy, targets fentanyl shipments while generating up to $10 billion in annual revenue. Coming up on the news, over 6,000 flee Kenya refugee camp. We'll tell you why after the break. Stay tuned. You're still live with us on the 12 Report, and we're taking a look at foreign stories. The United Nations says more than 6,000 South Sudanese refugees have fled one of Kenya's largest camps as worsening food shortages take their toll. The Kakuma refugee camp in northern Kenya, which hosts about 300,000 people from South Sudan, Somalia, Uganda, and Burundi, has been hit hard by recent aid cuts. Humanitarian groups say food shortages have sparked violent protests following reduced rations after massive funding cuts from the United States and other donors. South Sudan remains mired in instability and is edging towards renewed civil war, forcing many to seek refuge across the border. The UN, however, noted that despite the recent departures, about 4,800 new arrivals have been recorded since January. And in South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa has inaugurated a 6-member task force to probe global wealth inequality and its impact on the world economy. The initiative, described as the first of its kind, aims to propose practical solutions to narrow the widening divide between the wealthy and the rest of the global population. The panel is chaired by Nobel Prize-winning economist Joseph Stiglitz and will present its recommendations to G20 leaders when they meet in Johannesburg this November. To Ukraine now, where the conflict shows no sign of easing. Fresh fighting has been reported in the east, with Russian strikes hitting key infrastructure, while Kyiv is stepping up calls for more Western support. Questions remain over how long Ukraine can hold the line and what this latest escalation from Russia and yesterday's bombing in Kyiv means for the wider war. Joining us now for more on this is News Central senior correspondent Afia Hagen. Afia, Europe is considering a post-war buffer zone around Ukraine. What other security measures are put in place to ensure that no more lives are lost, at least?
Well, yes, this is part of a report that's come out today about what European countries are considering in what would be a post-war era for the Ukraine. Other measures could be forces around Europe coming together to form a sort of multilateral guarantee like NATO's Article 5, which would see Ukraine's allies, including the United States, fighting the Russians if they breach any peace deal. The next level down from that would be a European force operating in Ukraine with American backup, and that backup would be air power or intelligence. It could be a European air police, it could be Black Sea free trade, or if there's no alternative to a peace deal, then Europe could get more involved in helping Ukraine continue to fight the war.
So, as we speak, what is the situation on ground in both Ukraine and in Russia?
Well, yesterday we had that huge attack on Kiev. It was the second biggest attack that had been launched in Kiev since the start of the war. Bodies are still being recovered from the rubble from the devastation of that attack. And then overnight, 5 people have been killed and a baby is amongst the injured after Russian attacks across Ukraine. That's according to officials. Ukrainians Air Force say that Russia launched 68 drones across the country, with its defense teams bring down 46 of those drones.
All right, Afia Hagen, thank you for giving us the updates. We're hoping that this ceasefire is achieved as soon as possible so that at least we have more lives saved. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas says the coming weeks could prove decisive in efforts to revive stalled diplomacy on Iran's nuclear program. Her remarks follow a move by European powers to trigger a 30-day deadline, which could lead to sanctions against Tehran for no progress is made. The decision underscores growing concerns about Iran's nuclear activities and the deadlock in negotiations aimed at restoring compliance with international agreements. Now, Kallas says the period ahead presents a critical window to re-engage in dialogue and prevent further escalation.
When it comes to Iran, then you know all that yesterday the snapback was started, so we are entering a new phase, this 30 days that is now giving us also the opportunity to really find diplomatic ways to find a solution.
Jakarta has been rocked by fresh unrest after the death of a motorcycle taxi driver during violent clashes with the police. Hundreds of demonstrators flooded the streets of the Indonesian capital, accusing security forces of excessive brutality. The protest erupted after widely circulated videos appeared to show a black tactical vehicle running over the victim during confrontations with police. The shocking images have fueled public anger, with protesters demanding justice and accountability from authorities. At first, it was the hopes of being able to afford to travel the world. But now it's the hopes of being able to even afford a passport to travel the world. In the span of just 1 year, Nigeria's passport fees have done a magic trick, doubling almost overnight. You see, the reality of things is a 32-page, 5-year passport has jumped from 50,000 naira, lifted from a previous 35,000 naira in 2024, to a jaw-dropping 100,000 naira come September 1st, 2025, which is just in a few days. The 64-page, 10-year version followed suit from 100,000 naira to 200,000 naira. Meanwhile, folks abroad still pay $150 or $230, no change. This move doesn't just drain your wallet, it mocks it. The government says it's about maintaining equality, quality, security, faster passports. But let's be honest. When a document costs more than what many Nigerians earn in a whole month, something's off. A graduate assistant or assistant lecturer is now priced out of international mobility before even applying. Just when the passport is supposed to symbolize possibility, global freedom, it's become a symbol of economic exclusion. Travel should be an opportunity, not an opportunity cost. But at this point, what to do? Well, that's your postscript. And that said, let's look at the sporting world. The 9th edition of the National Youth Games is set for kickoff in Asaba, Delta State. Nigeria, as athletes are on the ground to fight for medals and podium finishes. Athletes have undergone screening and medical tests, but reports has it that there are issues. These and more will be trashing out in the games. We have our correspondent, Udoka, who is ready to give us more updates. Udoka, are you ready for us?
Yeah, of course, but I'm still saddened by the passport situation because
I know, right?
Well, maybe I have 2 years left on my passport before I have to renew, but it is really sad for Nigerians who cannot afford to pay 200,000 naira. For crying out loud, where are we heading to in this country? But in the world of sports, of course, it's all about the National Youth Games, and as usual, complaints are flying left, right, and center. We'll get to trash all of this when the game kicks off in a couple of minutes' time. But Blessings, always looking elegant on the show.
Thank you so much, Udoka, and definitely I'll be handing over to you too. And you've heard it. Stay tuned for In the Games for more on the sports stories. But in the meantime, do also send us your eyewitness reports because we want to see what you see. Also, you can follow us live across all socials. We are at News Central, and you can watch live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, GoTV channel 23, Avo TV, and of course on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Blessings Masugu.